Today in this video, you're going to have a quick breakdown of Singapore savings bonds. I'll share with you in the first segment what the latest offer is, and I'll also do a quick Q&A on it. The second segment for today is I'll explain why has the Singapore savings bond rates actually gone up. If you're curious about the macro environment, that segment will explain things. And last but not least, in the third segment, I'll be sharing with you 3 things that you may not know of on the Singapore savings bonds. So if you're keen, continue watching. Hi guys, welcome back. Without further ado, let's start with the first segment on explaining what this Singapore savings bonds latest offer exactly is. This over here is open as of 1st of May 2024 and it's actually balloting for the June 2024 issue. As you can see, the new rates are pretty attractive, correct? I've actually immediately sent this to many of my private clients because at 3.26%, this is even higher than many high-yield savings accounts already. In the previous video, I've actually mentioned before that UOB One account has reduced its rates. Not just UOB, OCBC Premier Dividend Plus has seen a cut. Standard Chartered Bank has also reduced its offer on one of its key high-yield savings accounts. But the Singapore savings bonds rates are guaranteed by government. That's the first thing. And second thing, more importantly, it is guaranteeing returns for the next 10 years. Yes, you've heard it. If interest rates go down in future, no problem. You're already promised this for the next 10 years. And do note, this is not a lock-in period. It's a guarantee of 10 years whereby you can exit anytime. You can sell the full amount, you can even sell partial amounts for your emergency needs or for your child's university costs, etc. and etc. So this entire buy and sell of Singapore savings bond is all done online at just $2 per transaction. And from my point of view, I see it as a very liquid asset to house some of your savings. The next question that you may have is how does it compare to previous issues, correct? So I've actually borrowed this from I Love SSB and you would see that this plot actually shows this current issue is close to the all-time high. Of course, the all-time high was achieved in December 2023 and that will be a point whereby I can make a guess as to the allocation that you can get. If you see over here in this allocation table, the last issue, which is at 2.96% for first year and around 3% average for 10 years, it was severely undersubscribed, correct? With only 301 million subscribers for 900 million max offer. But if we pull back up to December 1, you would realize that $1.86 billion was balloting for a 1 billion issue. Wow. For that offer, the allocations were only 20,000. And the previous November one seen a 47,000 allocation. So in my best guess, I don't think the odds of getting more than 50,000 is likely for this ballot. If you have 100,000, 200,000 in your bank account that you like to buy Singapore savings bonds with, I'll suggest maybe ballot with only 50,000. Because whatever surplus, how it works is that after the balloting is done, the surplus will be refunded back to your bank account. And I think the max you can get is around 50,000 for this issue. Again, this is not financial advice, this is my own calculated guess based on observing Singapore savings bonds many times on this channel. With that cleared, let me next explain a bit more in terms of macro financial environment. How about that? I'll next touch on this point, which is why has Singapore savings bond rates actually gone up as compared to the previous issue? Just a week or two back, there was a lot of concern on this key phrase, higher for longer. Higher interest rates for a longer period of time. In fact, some reports have even suggested that bond traders were pricing, in fact, a rate climb this year instead of a rate cut. That worst case doomsday scenario seemed to be creeping in the market, and that's why actually the long-term yield for US Treasury bonds started to inch upwards. If you can see this table, you would realize that it's climbed all the way to 4.6+% for the US 10-year Treasury, doing a short-term peak just a week or two back. The key reason, quite obviously, is oil price, correct? I don't know if you've seen oil prices, they've been climbing up ever since there's more tension in the Middle East, and rightly so. Right now, oil hovers between the $80 to $90 per barrel, and it contributes to inflation, which is a key reason why Fed has kept the overnight rates high. But in a twist of event, in the latest May 2024 FOMC meeting, Chairman Jerome Powell has mentioned that Fed will keep rates consistent at 5.25 to 5.5% for the 6th consecutive time. That is why also market started to cool down a bit, correct? It's not going higher. He's given every indication that a rate hike can be ruled out. Correspondingly, market has responded by cooling down a bit on the 10-year Treasury yield. And speaking to this point, even at 4.497%, do you realize 10-year rates you get this, but the overnight rate is at 5.25 to 5.5%, correct? This is called a yield inversion, which means you get paid more at the start, and in the long term, you actually get paid less because people are expecting future rates to be much lower, say at 4 or 3 or even 2%. They believe Fed overnight rates will be cut at some point in time. And to this yield inversion, this is inherently a bit weird looking, correct? And for record, this is the longest yield inversion period already, correct? Surpassing the 1978 624 days of consecutive yield inversion period. Some interpret yield inversion as a forecast that Fed will have to cut rates because of a recession, which also means if you check in terms of history, 1980 saw a recession come after yield inversion period was in place. This time round, we haven't seen any recession. Could that be looming in 2025 or 2026? That is up to your interpretation, but as always, stay invested. If you have learned something already, smash the like button because it helps us reach a wider audience together, and smash on subscribe, especially if you like content like this that helps you in your financial journey. Let's move on to the third segment for today, which is 3 things that you may not know of on the Singapore savings bonds. The first is that there can be a strategy of recycling your Singapore savings bonds. You know, I mentioned the Singapore savings bonds does not have a lock-in period, correct? Anytime you want to exit, you can do so with just a $2 transaction, of course. Which means also, if 6 months later, 1 year later, you get a much better deal than this, simply sell away this and purchase the next one. There is no obligation to remain in this current issue if you put some money in today. So let me explain how does this recycling concept actually work. Take for example, you have 4 bonds that were bought in 2022, the August, September, October and November 2022 issue. If you see over here, they look to be paying less than this current issue, correct? But I want to, in this exercise, explain to you which one to recycle. These are tips also that I give to my own private clients. And as always, if you like a full fee-based financial advice, look for links below on how I can build a retirement planning process for you to get you on your financial freedom path. I'd like to ask you this question. Which is the worst bond offer to keep right now if you own all 4 of them? $10,000 into each. Is it the August 2022 one where it has an average return of 2%? Or is it the October 2022 one which has an average return of 2.6%? The answer is that you have to actually look at the 3rd year payout because this is what you're entering into, correct, in year 3 and not the 1st year one which I've boxed up for you. So if you were to see which is the worst one as of now, you would realize that November 2022 actually pays 3.18%, October pays 2.6%, September pays 2.7%, and the August issue pays 3.07%. Wow. So the worst 2 are actually the September and October issue, not the August one that pays 3.07% once you reach the 3rd year. So you should consider selling this September and October issue first to recycle into this current new issue. For me personally, I like to see a big enough gap. If not, it's not worth the effort. And take note again, when you want to sell it, you need to do so before the end of the month. By the way, there's a usual question. How to compound Singapore savings bonds coupons, correct? I put inside CPF, I get a compounding rate of return. Compounding is quite simply, you just use your interest, your coupon, your dividend, and you reinvest it. It doesn't mean they pay it out, you can't compound. You just need to buy a new issue, for example, that gets that money some returns rather than consuming up that payout. So again, compounding can be simply done just by if you sell this 10,000 issue, you just buy 10,300 for your next bid. That gives that reinvestment concept into place. The second thing that you may not know of is that you can actually subscribe anytime in the month all the way until 28th of May 2024, 9 PM, which happens to be the closing for this issue. And to this point, don't go so last minute. Sometimes iBanking has issues, or you forget, you miss the cutoff, etc, etc. But what I'm hinting is that you don't actually need to buy as of this time of filming, start of the month. You can actually wait somewhere mid of the month or last week of the month and then throw your monies in. Firstly, you get an extra few weeks of interest, correct? And secondly, there's just no priority given to people who have subscribed earlier. And I hope that that's something that they inbuilt into the system, like a first come first serve method. Because what happens is that if oil price surges upwards, say next week, it's quite likely that interest rates will remain high for a period, right? Which means also next month's offer intuitively could be even better. So again, there's no real incentive to buy at the start of the month. You just buy in the mid or towards the end of the month just to optimize things a bit in your favor. The third point I have to share with you is that right now, fixed mortgage rates are even cheaper than the 3.26% you can get from Singapore savings bonds. Fixed rates now, from what I hear around, is around 2.95 to 3% depending on your quantum. If you have a spare 50,000, instead of paying down a mortgage, you can easily buy 50,000 into this Singapore savings bond issue and earn 3.26% and continue to incur that 2.95 or 3% in terms of fixed rate. On the market, there can be 3-year fixed rate packages, and if you lock in 3 years at 2.95% and then you can get 3.26%, that 50,000 is easily earning a 0.3% interest risk-free spread, and you get to keep that liquidity just in case you have some urgent need or whatever. So hopefully that's a useful tip to keep in mind. And as always, I have this question for you to think through also as we conclude today's discussion. Will the fixed rate mortgages start to climb up or not, seeing that this higher for longer interest rates could really come into fruition? Would banks start to revise their fixed rates up to 3.1, 3.3% moving forward? I think that's something to consider further, and that's where I'll leave you to this next video I have, which is a previous discussion on this topic of home loan. When will it become too big for your books? If you haven't seen it, check it out. I think it's some nuggets of wisdom that I would like to share with you too. If that's all from me, I'll see you there. Take care as always. Goodbye.